I want to welcome you to beautiful Pulaski and Giles County in this gorgeous airport that we are so lucky to have here. I think this hangar really represents the progressive nature of the people of Pulaski and Giles County, one of which we're going to celebrate today. Using personal talents for the benefit of the whole. I think that is a very broad statement, and Mr. Randy Jones is a great example of that. We're so lucky to have him and his effort out here at this airport making it what it is for our community, and we're glad for you to be here to celebrate that with us.
Today we celebrate the dedication Randy Jones has contributed to the Pulaski-Giles County Airport. On April the 18th, 1972, Randy became the manager of this facility. It's nothing like it is today, just one small hangar office, I think. Over 42 years, Randy's dedicated his pretty much his life to Giles County. Last fall, Randy was honored the coveted FAA Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award. This is a prestigious award bestowed on a very few pilots annually. We're lucky to have a fantastic pilot in Giles County and managing our airport. In 1958, let me get that. Before I do that, I want to introduce Randy's family. We have Leah, his daughter, and her husband, Jonathan, and their children, older brother, Larry, and his wife, Jeanette, younger brother, George, and his son, Chad. Randy Paul is in Spain. We really tried to work this with Randy, but we had a couple things that were set in stone and we couldn't do it, so we wish you were here, and I hope he videotaped, and we miss you, Randy Paul. So,
you'll get to see it.
All right, good. In 1958, Randy told us he borrowed $3 from his grandmother to take his first airplane ride. He told us that Dan Spear took that same airplane ride. But fortunately, Randy learned a lesson and made something out of himself. And we all know what happened with Dan. So this time I'd like to introduce Dan. Dan's going to give us a little history of the airport and other things.
It's a beautiful day, and thank you for the introduction, David. I hope you don't have to do this very often. On a lighter note, my older brother took flying lessons out here with Bateman McClure, and you know Bateman McClure ended up as a professional pilot. And on Sundays we would all go to church. Bateman wouldn't though, but we'd be eating lunch and he would fly around our house, turn off the engine, open the door, and yell, "Hey, Johnny, come to the airport." So that's how they get to do that. Now, Johnny, his flying career ended when he didn't land on the airfield, he landed in a tree. And my daddy convinced him that he needed to give that up. But I'm going to do the history. There's not going to be a test after this, but I think there are going to be some things that you would find extremely interesting. I was hoping when David suggested I do this that I found somebody that had already written the history of the airport. Well, not really. It's not there. And I'm not necessarily going to do it, but I found a lot of stuff that I didn't know and things that I'm going to tell y'all about today. But we're here today in part due to one man's vision, his determination, and his ability to engage the leadership and the citizens of Giles County in his dream. Mr. Nathan Anderson Abernathy, a businessman, he was a partner in Abernathy Concrete and Abernathy Feeds and Grain. He was a veteran, and in 1943, he was president of the Giles County Chamber of Commerce, and that gets very important. Talk of an airport had been around Giles County as early as 1931. But it was Nathan Abernathy that took that dream of air service to Giles County and made it a reality. In researching this project, I was tremendously impressed with the amount of time and work Nathan Abernathy committed to the airport project, and I'd like to just give you a brief history and some insights on the development of the Abernathy field. 1943, we're in the middle of World War II. Abernathy's leveraging his position as chamber began exploring just how to establish an airport in Giles County and how the chamber could make it happen. He visited with aviation officials in Nashville, in Atlanta, and in Washington. He visited with the U.S. Army and the Navy. He developed a plan and submitted it to the Giles County Quarterly Court. That's the commission now. And in their July 1943 meeting, approved funding for the purchase of 200 acres at $15,000. Now, Mr. Abernathy had already gotten the options, so he was pretty confident that it would pass. But it's all this property that we see out here. This July, Abernathy Field will have its 71st anniversary, and that's an amazing, amazing thing. At the Quarterly Court's next meeting, they voted to name the field in honor of Nathan Abernathy. So that's how Abernathy Field was named. By 1944, in April, clearing had begun, and they had sodded a 3,000-foot runway, and construction of an office had begun. In July of 1944, Abernathy Field received its Army Navy designation, and H.T. Giles, a licensed pilot and a licensed instructor and a test pilot, was hired as operational manager and instructor at Abernathy Field. First month, they had 10 applications were submitted for flying lessons. Also in April, it was official. Abernathy Field was the first Class II airport built in the state of Tennessee. Also in that month, the construction of the hangar began. The hangar, still here, was completed in June of 1944, and 2 privately owned aircrafts were added to the previously 5 that were housed at Abernathy Field. The first of these 2 planes was owned by Miss Ada Cheek. Miss Cheek was the first woman in Giles County to fly and own an airplane. The second was owned by Jack Johnson, that's Beachy McElroy's father, who ended up writing articles, weekly articles about what was happening at your airport. Mr. B.F. Eastlick and Marvin Dyer jointly owned a plane, and there were 3 training planes stationed here at Abernathy Field. Also in June of 1944, the Air Power Club was formed to promote flying and support for the local airport. And you guessed it, Mr. Nathan Abernathy was president, Mayor Sharp was vice president, Ms. Cheek, Giles, H.C. Giles, Wilson Abernathy, G.B. Abernathy, C.H. West, and Hayes Gordon were the board of directors. Today, that Air Power Club is called the Barnstormers. If you're a Barnstormer, raise your hand. Great. Thank you all for being here, and we appreciate your support of this airport. After months of preparation, on October the 6th, 1946, Abernathy Field hosted the Middle Tennessee Air Show. The show featured Captain Herman Hill's Barnstormers, so it was quite an event. A crowd of 11,000 people attended this event. Governor Jim McCord was the featured speaker, and he congratulated Giles County on having one of the best airports in Tennessee. Who parked those 11,000 people? Joe Fike, who parked them? Cowboy Dotson. Cowboy Dotson, and he received recognition for that. In 1958, the Pulaski City Council, by this time now, it started out with just the county, and by this time there was a joint partnership between the city of Pulaski and Giles County. They made application for funding to pave the runway and make other improvements at the airport. It took 3 years and a lot of work. But on May 7th, 1961, Giles County proudly dedicated an all-weather airport with a fly-in. Over 100 planes participated, and 3,000 people attended. Those 3,000 people attended viewed the brand newly paved 3,000 north-south runway with running lights, a rotating beacon, major repairs to the hangar and office area. A NARCOM Unicom ground-to-air radio had been installed, along with a new wind direction and wind speed meter. The next great event was in 1972 when Randy Jones was hired as manager of the airport. And when he was hired, there were 2 planes out here, right? 2 planes, that was it. And Randy has made significant improvements at the airport facility, including 2 new hangars, 3 runway extensions, and we're now at 5,300 feet. completely remodeling the office and installation of a non-directional beacon. Now, to give you an example of the work that Randy did, the second hangar used to be the gym for the Prospect School. So they moved that gym and with volunteers and then some people were paid, built that hangar. And that's the way Randy's done everything else. And I want y'all to know that the last extension on the runway was a major project. And Randy worked the deal where we did in kind. It was an amazing, complicated deal that I went to the Aeronautics to request the money for it, and Randy said, "Don't talk about the deal," So, great job, Randy. And I'm serious; it was really good.
The director warned us not to talk
Yes.
about it.
And Randy also has had a non-directional beacon system installed. As an alderman and mayor and now the economic development director, I've been working with Randy for over 30 years. And we have a lot of prospects that land at this airport. And, Randy's one of the very first people they meet. He takes care of their pilots. He's very professional. He's our front door to this community. And he does a wonderful job. And everybody just thinks the world of Randy Jones that flies into this airport. We would like to just dream on just a little bit more and talk about some things that the Economic Development Commission is supporting and what we would like to see happen, and we want to work. Extension on the runway would allow larger planes to come in. And would also, as some of you pilots know, that in the summertime when it's hot, it's a little more difficult. So that's important. We're having also some of our local industries that own planes can't land here, or they don't feel comfortable landing here at 5,300 feet, and they have to go to an airport that's at 6,000 or more. So this extension would put us as good and better than most airports in Middle Tennessee, and we're going to work for that. As Randy does, he will be getting grants, but that's our goal, and that's what we're going to work for. So we appreciate y'all being here. We appreciate your interest in aeronautics. Randy, look forward to working with you more, and keep telling me all those stories. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Next, we're going to have some comments from our sponsors and airport users. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Tim Kraut. Are you going to? I'll let you introduce him.
Hi, everyone. My name's Bob Ballard. I'm a local pilot here that enjoys this fine airport and our great airport manager, Randy Jones. And I've been asked to give a slight introduction to Mr. Tim Kraut. Tim, a couple of the airplanes you see here belongs to Tim. Tim is from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. For a lot of us, we know what that all means. He may be a Yankee by geography, but he's truly a Southerner by heart. He's lived here long enough to where we've almost got him saying y'all. He attended Embry Aeronautical University, a great school down in Florida. Johns Hopkins, he got his pilot's license in 1981. He went to work for the Naval Research Lab and DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, also working with the Department of Defense Special Operations. Did that for about a total of 15 years. The best way I can, and I worked for Tim as a contract pilot, best way I can tell you what all that means, if you've ever watched a James Bond movie, and James Bond would leave Moneypenny and go to this one place down in usually a basement where they showed all the little intricate special equipment that James Bond got to use. That's what Tim and his company, Syngin, that he decided built. That's what they did. They provided the government, particularly the armed services, special equipment, usually through communications, that would aid our country in our defense. One project I got to work for Tim as a professional pilot, and I didn't know what we were doing. That's how secretive most of it was. He just told us what we needed to know. But it was implemented in Iraq, and it was a special communication system for airborne development for the troops down below. and it probably, I mean, there's no way to account exactly, but I'm sure it saved thousands of lives. And what makes SynGen so important at that time was the fact that not only did he get it done, but unlike big defense contractors, his idea was to do the same job and make it efficient, make it a lot cheaper, and he has done that. He had a project here in the state of Tennessee which included 15 aircraft doing these same projects, particularly in the communication area. He's a great guy, a great pilot, a great American. He sold his company in 2010. He says he's enjoying retirement, but he really isn't. He's got other projects going now. He's also the owner of Aerial Imaging East, and I'll introduce to you my friend and a great individual, Mr. Tim Kraut.
Good morning, everyone. I usually don't need Bob to tell people I'm a Yankee. When I say good morning and I'm in Tennessee, I usually get followed by a couple, "You're not from around here, are you?" But the good news is I'm from Washington, D.C., and I'm here to help. The bad news for all of you is that one of the requirements when you move to Washington, D.C. is you always have to be prepared to give a speech. So anytime you happen to walk through a hangar and there's a microphone and people sitting, you walk in with your canned speech and you're ready to give it. I guess the other good news, however, is that they put me before lunch, and you don't get to be my size by giving speeches this size before lunch. So I cut it down to this size. I am Tim Kraut, as Bob mentioned. I have the very unique privilege in that I'm a very blessed person in a lot of ways. One of the ways that I'm blessed is that in the professional arena is that I get to do a great job. And that there's a standing joke: if you walk into a room and want to know if there's a pilot in the room, just wait a second and he'll announce it. I have the privilege of being a pilot and getting paid to fly aircraft such as what you're seeing around here. That's a wonderful job, and it's a wonderful opportunity. A few years ago, we moved to this airfield and worked primarily because of Randy, and that's a wonderful opportunity. The other advantage that I have, as Bob said, I'm semi-retired, so I only have to work about 10 weeks a year. And that's a good thing. I'll explain why. Now, the downside of that is I work about 120 hours a week during those 10 weeks. So if you do the math, it's pretty close to a 40-hour week. I just get 40 weeks a year off, as Bob says, off. Bob did say I'm with Aerial Imaging East. I wanted to point out, I suspect, and one of the reasons that I wanted to give this talk today, because I suspect almost nobody in here ever heard of Aerial Imaging East. I know there's one or two people that have, but even the one or two that have never heard of Tim Kraut. Most of the time, their interaction is with Annette Jeffries, who is a co-owner and my partner. Nanette wishes she could have been here. She gives a much better speech than I do and is much better to look at than I am. However, she has a granddaughter being born today, and if you're a grandparent, you know there's one or two things in the world that trump just about everything, and the birth of your grandkids is it. Generally more important, I'm sure Randy can attest, and even the birth of your own kids. It's a lot more fun to be a grandparent than a parent. So Nan couldn't be here, so I'll try to fill her shoes as best I can, but she wanted to pass along her warm welcome to everybody as well. I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes talking about Aerial Imaging East because I think some of the things we do are a little different, and I suspect that many in Pulaski are not even aware of the significant impact that a lot of what happens right here in this community, and really in this area in Tennessee, have on an ongoing basis. As Bob mentioned, there's been several events over the years where we've had as many as 15 aircraft in the air at the same time. And we use almost exclusively local pilots and local maintenance and local fuel. That we all stay in local hotels. We all eat local food. That's life, right? And I'll explain later why that's significant, but it ties back to the fact that I'm not, as much as Bob would like to make me a Southern, I really am a Yankee, and I do live in Washington, D.C. So it's reasonably significant, I think, that, and Aerial Imaging East, while we're a small company, there are a number of companies that come here. And Tennessee in particular is an extremely aviation-friendly state, probably the top state in the country, in my opinion, for friendliness to aviation. And then you put on top of that guys like Randy Jones, and makes Pulaski just a wonderful place to be. And that matters, and that's why companies come here all the way from D.C., Washington, D.C., Maryland at times. I'll spend just a couple of minutes talking about a few things Aerial Imaging East does because, again, I think they're interesting and unique. One of them, the simplest one to describe, is aerial photography. You saw some of the pictures back there. We fly over farms, take pictures of farms, things like that. Okay, that's pretty easy to explain. Probably the one that's somewhat more interesting is construction photography. When a road's being built, it's almost always the case that the company building the road gets paid by how much progress they make. So every couple of weeks, we fly over, take progress pictures. We compare the pictures from 2 weeks ago to the pictures today. The progress they made gets submitted to the state, and they get paid. So that's a good thing, right? Everybody likes getting paid, but that one's pretty easy to understand. The other one that I suspect very few of you even realize you can do, I'll use this as an example. If you live 10 minutes from here, you could, in 10 minutes, drive to this airport, in 2 minutes, get in that plane sitting over there, and an hour after that, be sitting in Memphis, Tennessee, having a beautiful day in Memphis. In the evening, come back to the plane, fly back here. Not many people are even aware that Aerial Imaging East, as well as a few other companies, lease aircraft out of Pulaski, Tennessee. And we have people, a couple of our clients now, who fly either freight or their personnel. And the beauty of it is there's no TSA, and those aspects, you pull your car right out next to the plane. Randy will almost always greet you there with a cold soda. Climb into the plane, the engines are always running. About the time the door's shut, you're halfway to Memphis, or the beach, or Gaithersburg, or fill in any of the mountain areas. Fill in the blanks. That's a pretty routine event around here, and many are surprised to hear that Pulaski even has a service like that. So I wanted to mention that. The third one that I'll spend a little more time on, because it tends to be one that people, it's very interesting. Bob introduced it somewhat earlier back there. We do a lot of communications events. Bob talked about a few with the Department of Defense. I'll talk about the one that's easier to understand, at least for me, because I'm a simple guy, and that's the live television. How many people have heard of the Tour of France, Tour de France, the bicycle race? Most people have. We don't do that one. But we do, there's a French company that does. We do almost all of the other ones. How many have heard of the Boston Marathon? You probably haven't yet heard of the Red Bull Wings for Life race, but the very first one was held just a month ago. It's a very interesting race. It's a 100-mile long foot race, and it's conducted at 34 locations around the world simultaneously, and the start starts at exactly the same time. So the runners go to whatever country they want of these 34 start locations, and the gun goes off at exactly the same time. So sometimes it's 6 in the morning or midnight or wherever they are around the world. And they run this 100-mile or so race, and the winner is declared worldwide. Well, things like that get a lot of television coverage. Live TV for sports is a big deal. Just to kind of help you understand how big a deal, Tour de France, we did a survey on it. Most of you have heard of the Tour de France. Probably the number 2 bicycle race in the world that you may not have heard of yet, but it's up and coming, is the Tour of California. It's almost identical to the Tour de France, but as you would expect, it's in California. The third one is the Tour of Colorado, and as you would expect, it's in Colorado. The fourth one is the Tour of Utah. So at the moment, 2, 3, and 4, and they're all starting to chip away in that arena on the Tour de France as number 1. In terms of number 1 in business is defined by how much money you bring in. Let's be honest, that's what defines business, is money. Very few people, so those 3 are, if you're watching any of those channels and you happen to flip through and see the Tour of California, it's very likely that aircraft based in Pulaski, Tennessee are providing that coverage. If you watch the Boston Marathon next year, it's very likely that aircraft, in fact, that one sitting out there or that one right there, are providing the live TV coverage that enables that to occur. And few people realize that much happens. Now again, live TV is a big deal. The Tour of California, as an example, is about $80 million to produce. $80 million. It's about an 8-day event. Let's simply do the math. That's $10 million a day. Let's do the math. The event is about 5 hours long a day. That's about $2 million an hour. So if you think about it, when you're flipping through the channels, you see the Tour of California, you stay on it for 5 minutes, that's about the price of your house, or at least the average house. Now, I wish I could say I got most of that money and I passed it along to Randy. The truth is we get a very, very, very small sliver of that. But nevertheless, for things of that magnitude to be happening in Pulaski, Tennessee, I think is pretty exciting. And very few people realize that magnitude of stuff happens here on a routine basis. If you see any of those events, when you watch the Boston Marathon or any bike race in the United States, there's a very good chance that the actions that allowed that to occur are conducted because of operations that are occurring in Pulaski, Tennessee. So it's a fair question to ask, well, you know, why does any of this matter to me? Who cares? I think it should matter to you because, as Bob introduced, I live in Maryland, and my companies have all been based in Maryland. And you can rest assured I get a fair amount of pressure from Maryland officials to move my aircraft and the other operations we conduct to Maryland. So why would I do it in Tennessee? And I've been doing it here since about 1995, not always at Pulaski. We still do a fair amount of work either here or at Fayetteville, Tennessee, and we almost oscillate between the two. The longer runway would help a lot, by the way. so we wouldn't need to go to Fayetteville quite as much. Always never fast to put in a plug when we can. It's a fair question to ask. Why are we here? Well, there's no question that for lack of a better term, I'll call it the Southern charm. Everyone likes to work at a place where you're wanted, and you're appreciated for the work you bring in and the effort you put on. But I'll be real honest with you. We're here because it's cheaper, and so I'm going to go back. And there's a lot of elected officials in the room. You know, Tennessee's a great state, and Pulaski's a great city, and the cost of operations are low enough here that I can afford to bring 30 or 40 people down here a couple times a year to conduct operations here cheaper than I can conduct them in Maryland. So don't lose that flavor, and if you do, we'll be based out of Maryland. It's that simple, right? So I think it's important to realize that. I wanted to spend at least a little bit of time too just commenting on Randy. It has been wonderful working with you. I appreciate today Bob introduced us. We heard earlier you're the first face we saw when we came here. While we love Tennessee, and I suspect that we'll stay in Tennessee based for our aircraft operations for a long time, we're in Pulaski largely because of Randy Jones. And so I appreciate your efforts. I applaud you for what you do, and the community should appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Before I introduce the next speaker, I want to tell you about the story of the first time I ever met Randy. It was the third Saturday in October in Knoxville, Tennessee. Tennessee in 1982, if y'all remember that game, it was the first time Tennessee beat Alabama in a long stretch. Well, we were up there celebrating. And down on the Cumberland that night, some restaurant was throwing mementos or things out, and I stepped off the curb to grab one. Somebody else did too, and I reared up and I hit him in the eye with the elbow. Happened to be a police officer. So my dad was taking lessons from Randy at that time, and I think he was just about to do his cross country. So from jail, I called him and said, "Can you take your cross country up here and come get me?" He said, "Of course." So that's the first time he ever. Keep knocking this off. Well, that's the only time he ever got me out of jail, but he was excited actually to fly. So Randy, they flew up that day and got us out, and luckily I got out of it. Wasn't anything happened. But my dad got his plane, flew for a few years, and after we all got out of college, he didn't need it anymore, I guess, so he sold it. But Karen Hutton, that's David Hutton's daughter. I think she's a couple of years older than I am, and I know that she probably stayed in a lot of trouble too. But unfortunately, they never managed to get rid of their plane. She had to upgrade, and David had to fly all over the country to get her out of trouble still. So, Karen Hutton.
Thank you. It's good to be back in Pulaski, I can tell you that. I'm going to talk a lot about Randy, and Randy's flown for my dad. What year is it? 71. I wasn't born yet. That's a joke. I know y'all can't tell either, right? But I'm not sure when Randy started flying for me, but I know it was because my dad was really traveling a lot and working very hard, and was not around as much as I wish he'd been around. And Randy would come down and pick me up at Tuscaloosa, which I went to Alabama. So the year that he beat us was long forgotten, I'm sure. But anyway, I figured everybody had a plane. And I didn't realize, I would just take my car out and find the airport, and Randy would pick me up. And first thing I would do when I got on the plane was it a Navajo then? Yeah, we were in Navajo. Little Navajo. Did that one have a restroom on it? Did that one have a restroom? Little potty in the back. Well, little potties in the back, I'd get in. I'm 18, 19 years old, drinking my sodas, rushing out there, probably late, and he's waiting on me. And, pilots like to be on time. I get on the plane, first thing I do is go use the potty. I just assume it goes out into the air. I don't know that it's being caught somewhere. But anyway, years go by, and Randy would say, "You should be prepared when you get on the plane, kind of giving me the hint, which I missed a lot, can you hold it for 30 minutes till you get to Pulaski? I think it's a 30-minute flight.
30, 40 minutes, yeah.
So years go by, and I finally get it. I go, oh, he has to clean that potty out. you know, and pilots get to do a lot of fun stuff. So years go by, and I realized I try not to use that potty. And Randy and I get along a lot better when I'm not doing that. So then we go along, and then finally I've got more people on the plane, and we're using the plane again, and I cross the milestone of 50. I'm back where I was when I was 18, using that potty again. So Randy's got a big job, and he's getting a lot of great awards, but he really goes to all lengths for safety. And I've tried to talk Randy into flying me quite a few times when the weather looked kind of rough, because I had a deal I wanted to go make, or I had to go see something, or try to think I had a deal. And Randy would look up and he says, "No, I don't think." I said, "Are you sure you can't get over here? Are you sure?" You know, and Randy would say, "I think we should just wait." You know, you never could talk Randy and take a flight if he wasn't 110%, 1,000% sure we were going to be safe. And that safety is real important. I live in Chattanooga, and to this day, I still have Randy. Not because the plane's over here, I could have it over there. I have Randy fly over and get me, and take me to wherever I want to go. And that's because of Randy and his safety and the relationship that my father's had with Randy and I've had with him since the 80s. He's been flying me, I think, since 90s, and late 90s he's been flying me as I got where I could pay the fuel. So I know I'm still contributing to Pulaski in some manner. But, you know, I'll give you a couple of instances. We were flying back late one night, and I think it was about midnight. I mean, when I get the most out of Randy, you know, he charges by the day. I go by the day, and my days are very long. I have Randy come pick me up at 6, means he's got to get up over here about 3 or 4 to get over there and get me by 6 Eastern time. He does get an hour break. I mean, he's back another hour. And if we come in at midnight, I'm sure that's probably, he's taking a nap somewhere, but I get a whole day out of Randy. I got to make the most out of every penny. I learned that from Randy. Everybody knows how frugal he is. He probably's got that first penny, or I've got it somewhere here, I know. But anyway, we were coming back, and I'm sleeping. I get to sleep. Randy doesn't get to sleep. And I hear this pop. And so woke me up, and I go to the front cabin, and he says, "You need to sit down." So I went back and buckled up, and he said, he reached back, he said, "You know, that it had the window cracked on the side, but there's double pane windows up there, and something it had a fracture across it." He said, "If that wind had come loose, a hole this big around, your whole body would have gone through it." And I went, "Gee whiz." You don't realize how fast you're going and what can really happen. So he got me back in my seat. I'm cool, but you know, I remember these things. There was another time we were flying around, I think we ended up having to land in Lawrenceburg. We lost cabin pressure, I believe.
We landed down in Jackson.
Oh, see, I'm asleep again.
Somebody didn't put their oxygen mask on like I told them to.
All right, so here we are on a plane. Everybody's seen, you know, when the mask comes down, you put up your nose first, children second. Well, I'm there with Mike Berry, a friend of mine in Chattanooga, and we're riding around looking at some jobs that day, and came back, and all of a sudden the oxygen mask dropped down. We just kind of look at them. What do you think we should do? We just kind of look at them. I mean, I don't know what we were thinking. We just thought, well, we're with Randy. We got to be safe. Who needs the oxygen mask? Randy looks back, and he's already taken the plane for a nosedive. We didn't have to put him on, thankfully, because he took care of us. But I don't know this day why we just looked at, we still talk about it. We're still friends. He came in the other day. He said, "Do you remember us not putting those oxygen masks on?" I said, "Yeah, I don't know what we were thinking about." David didn't come today. He's got a bad back, but he's also not the best around people. Having one of me is almost too much for him. So, but we had some words about Randy, and he is, my dad's success as a developer is largely due to the efficiencies of being around to get to clients that weren't familiar with Pulaski, and he needed to get out of Pulaski and catch other clients and pick them up and take them to sites, because the sites were kind of in small markets as well. So Randy, being his pilot when he needed him, was very crucial to his business. I think he told me gasoline then was, what do you know?
It started out at 50 cents a gallon when I first
50 cents a gallon. So, you know, it was a great way to travel and pick up clients. And my dad's motto is, and I just used it today, in fact, we have a client over in Arkansas I was going to go pick up and bring and go look at and go visit with. And I said, I called the guy back. I said, "Just tell him we'll pick him up. We'll fly him to a few sites and get him back at home the same day." Well, that's what my dad taught me. and that's what Randy taught him with his abilities, and being able to have access to Randy, and coming out of Pulaski is, if you can get a client to a site and get them back home with their family that night, they're going to go for you anytime before they're going to get on the road, go through the airports, and figure out how to get back home after 2 or 3 days. So it's been a great tool for us as well to use the plane. I think I've used it the last year or this year more than I have in 10 years combined probably. So Randy's also been a good mentor. We talk about, if you can imagine, from the 70s to now, we've talked an awful lot. It's not just about planes, it's about family, it's about kids. I've watched Leah and them grow up, even though I haven't been here to watch you grow up. He's most passionate about his family as any man I've been around. He thoroughly is just gifted as far as what he manages. I try to get him to hire people all the time. We'll be talking about his accounting, and he does his own accounting. You know, I can't get him to, he may have gotten someone part-time now, I'm not sure, but no. So I'm trying to get him to loosen up a little bit with that money and get you someone to handle those accounting bills, Randy. You can grow, you can do that, Randy's still, well, I don't trust you. I got to make sure that he checks his every box, just like he does when he gets on that airplane. He checks every box. I've tried to get him to help, with his growing his building business. Randy is, I don't know how many homes you built over the years. How many have you built?
I don't know,
A couple of hundred homes. So Randy's raised a family, run his own business, built homes, helped them finance the homes, helped them get in the homes, overseeing the construction with few superintendents, and it's amazing to me. So when I take Randy to a job, he's the first guy I get out and say, let's go look at the concrete together. Let's go look at something together, and Randy's got an opinion about it, and I said, yeah, I agree with you. Or, he's really a source of information, has been really great for me and our family. My father's very dedicated to you. If it hadn't been for you, there's a lot of successes that we would not have had, that I wouldn't have had the fortune to be part of, just for being here and being part of what you guys created. So I'm really indebted to you as well, and hope that we have many, many, many more years together of flying. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kenny. Bob's going to introduce Tabitha.
Just to clarify, that $3 that Randy paid for his first flight lesson, the truth of the matter is, it went to either Wilbur or Orville Wright. We know that for a fact. This next young lady I'm going to introduce is very special to me. I've worked for her and her family. They own this airplane that's right behind me, which is a Mitsubishi, and a great airplane. I can thank Randy Jones for having gotten the job, because he recommended me for it as well. Her name is Tabitha Bolton. She's a double major in business and marketing and graduate of the University of Phoenix. And after that, which she joined the drying team, her parents' company. And after shortly joining the drying team, she worked and got her ratings in water restoration, mold restoration, and remediation certifications. I can tell you she's traveled all over the United States. She's traveled some through Canada as well, I'm sure. Working job sites and trade shows and that type of thing. I thought it was really neat that in 2005 she was Person of the Year for R&R Magazine, which is big in their industry. And every time you see, which is our competitor, what are those the green truck? Who is those people? ServPro. Anyway, I just thought she outdid all those folks with ServPro as well. In 2006, she became the director of marketing and sales, where she really poured her passion into customer service, and she's done a really good job to make the drying team a national, actually considered the #2 entity in drying and restoration across the country. She became the face of the company and has since broadened sales and service, as I said, nationwide. And of course, when you ask her what she's most proud of, she does mention her children. We're very glad to have her here today. The state had asked us to ask folks to come up and talk about their planes and the importance here in Giles County. And we asked her if she would talk on behalf of the drying team. Tabitha Bolton.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to see so many of you here in support of our good friend and awesome pilot, Mr. Randy Jones. It's a beautiful day. I have my little speech wrote out, but Miss Hutton was talking about Mr. Jones, Randy, having a lot of knowledge with airplanes. So I had to share my knowledge of airplanes, or lack thereof. About 15 years ago, we were seniors in high school, and I took my very first ever flight, going to the Macy's parade to dance as a cheerleader in New York. And we get on the plane, and, and it's taking off, and I'm so excited, like I'm sitting beside my two cheerleader friends, and my parents are, up an aisle and over. And all of a sudden, it sounds like the engine's cut off. So I freak out. I said, Daddy, why the engine's cut off? He said, oh, we just had to let another plane go by. And I said, oh, okay, I thought the engine's turned off. And the whole plane busted out laughing. And he said, Tabitha, if we stopped, we'd sink like a rock. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, I don't have very good knowledge with airplanes. I have had the pleasure of knowing Randy for about 6 years now, when my father and mother did purchase the MU-2. And it has been another eventful circumstance, such as my first flight on the MU-2, they accidentally turn on like their little private intercoms. They turn them on so we can hear them, and they're going, I wonder what this button does. Oh, no, let's try it out. Oh, what's this? Oh, no, that one lowers the gear. Don't do that one. I mean, freaking me out. I was sitting there going like, oh my gosh, they're flying our plane. And they do it every time someone, if they know, hasn't flown privately, they mess with them, and it's really funny. Now I get a giggle out of it, but I was really starting to freak out again, because like we said, I used to not have a very good knowledge of airplanes or how they work. So y'all always make it fun and exciting, you and Bob alike, and I really appreciate that. Like I said, Scott wanted to be here today. He is in Florida, so I'm honored and pleased that I got to come here today to speak to you guys. Aviation here in Pulaski has been very important to our business, and so has Mr. Jones. And just so you understand how, I'm going to give you a little small background of the nature of our business. The Drying Team Incorporated is a commercial drying service company. We have dried hotels, courthouses, mansions such as Charles Schwab's home on Lake Tahoe. Like the elevator door, I think was like $1 million in that home, just the elevator door. Some very high profile stuff. Some more local work you guys might be familiar with. It was our equipment on Arpenland Hotel when it flooded, the Pinnacle office building downtown Nashville, the Wyndham Resort, the Centennial Baptist Hospital, all in Nashville. That was us working with our other restoration companies providing them services. Now, Disaster Equipment is also part of our company, and they rent out the drying equipment to those companies to perform those services. So a very quick response anywhere in the nation is imperative in our nature of work. It prevents secondary loss, it prevents further contents and structural damage, which could lead to sick building syndrome. And that's where pretty much get hidden mold and growth, and sometimes becomes visible. People can get sick. This can be a very big challenge when the buildings have to stay occupied, such as in many of our jobs, such as nursing homes, hospitals. We have to be there quickly to beat out the competition who may just be right down the street. So how we used to do it before Mr. Jones helped us out here, we would hope to find a flight out of Nashville and get there 2 hours before the flight, and a little over an hour drive there, and then hope there wasn't any delays from incoming places. And then we would fly to another major city close to one of our equipment depots. Then we go through the rental car line and wait, 30 minutes, an hour trying to get a car. Then we would drive to our depot and then on to our customer. Well, even though most commercial flights seem quick, sometimes we were still 24 hours out before we could reach our customer. And that wasn't cutting it. It was costing us customers. It was costing us jobs. So that's when our CEO, Scott Tarpley, also my father, and my mother, Pam Tarpley, who is our CFO and might as well be COO. I think she has the final say in just about everything, don't you? Decided to come up. Mom's like, why don't you buy a plane? And Dad pondered it for a little while, but like me, he didn't have that much knowledge on planes. So who did he come to? He came to Randy. Randy was committed to helping us find a solution, and he did. He researched plane options for our area, including purchasing, renting, joint ownership, and presented Scott a list of pros and cons of each of those options. So when Scott decided to purchase, Randy found planes that were suitable to meet our goals and our company's needs, and he also found pilots that were willing to accommodate our 24/7, 365 schedule, or should I say lack of schedule. Randy also test flew the planes for us, and this was Dad's first purchase, the MU2, which is on display here today. You're more than welcome to look at it. It's not as fancy as Miss Hutton's over there, but this one gets the job done. So when Scott decided to purchase the MU2, there was a small, teeny-weeny problem. Well, actually, it was kind of big. When this thing is loaded to capacity, that runway wasn't quite long enough to be a comfort safety margin for landing and takeoff. So Dad was like, dang, I got to start all over. Not Mr. Randy. He said, no, I got this. He was able to get the runway extended. So now we don't have to worry about that when this bad boy's loaded down, which we do load it down, don't we? Sometimes we have stuff everywhere and everyone on it. He also was able to add a new hangar, which accommodated storage for it and some of the other planes that have now come in, which also came in handy since my dad also owns the smaller plane that's outside or has some kind of ownership in it, and he also bought a third plane, which he may have sold now. So at one time we had about 3 planes here. So now with the new runway, new plane, it was time to see if it was going to work. And that came sooner than later. Late one night, Scott's phone rang, and a customer in Texas called us and said, hey, Scott, I got this really big, large loss. There's one slight problem. He said, what? And he said, I've been told if I don't have equipment here by 7 a.m., they're going to get my competitor right down the street that's got all the equipment right here to do the job. And he said, I'll lose it. My dad says, let me work on it. So at like 1 a.m., he calls Randy, says, I got a job, I got to go. Dad and his crew arrived here around 2:30 in the morning. To his surprise and amazement, the plane was out and ready. The pilot was already here with his flight plan. And breakfast and hot coffee were waiting on him. Now, if that is an amazing service that goes above and beyond at 2:30 in the morning, I don't know what is. Not to mention, if it's cold outside and he knows we're coming in, he starts our vehicles for us so it's warm. There have been many other occasions that I could name off where Randy and this airport have been very vital to us. Well, let me finish this other story. Dad gets there, they fly, they land. When they land, they already had a car waiting to pick up our crew to take them to the equipment. No long lines. They get there, they beat the 7 a.m. deal. And so it was a great success, all because of this man right here. So Dad knew then that his plan was going to work. It doesn't mean he takes the plane to every job, but when he needs it, that's what he takes. This would not have been possible without his dedication and support and all the information that he gave my father and my mother as well. Just know that if it were early or late, it could be raining or shining, it could be holiday or work day, it doesn't matter. This man right here has been there for us because our business doesn't rest. And most of the time it is the holidays or late at night or something of that nature when we leave. He has outstanding dedication to this airport, outstanding dedication to people like us and the businesses here. And you can't find that in just anybody. It's a true love and passion for what he does. And for all those long flights, and sometimes I would just look really ragged coming off that plane sometimes, he would always cheer me up, and I've heard him say it to a lot of people. He would say, well, aren't you just the cat's meow? Well, now it's my turn. Mr. Randy, you are the cat's meow. And for those of you who don't understand what that means, it just pretty much saying you're special, you're outstanding, you got this. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming today to help honor my good friend Randy. And it's been a great pleasure talking to y'all, all of y'all. See, I say y'all, not you guys. Is that what you say up there in Washington, you guys? And Randy, thank you. Without your support and dedication, we wouldn't be as successful nationwide as we are now. So thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
We'll go with the mic again. Last and not least, we have Greg Galloway he's a plant manager for automotive lighting, which is part of Magneti Marelli. He's going to talk about their use of the airport.
Thank you, David. Well, I don't know Mr. Randy Jones, but you've got really great hair. And you have very well-behaved grandchildren. Those two little girls back there of mine have wrecked that table, David. I know you've worked hard, and a lot of people worked hard, but I appreciate. I asked David last night. I said, "Is it okay if I bring my family?" He said, "Sure." I hope you don't have any regrets. But no, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And just to say a few words, as I mentioned, I don't know Mr. Randy Jones, but I can tell by all the kind words that you're a great contributor to the success of the airport, which is a great success to Pulaski, to the city. And being here as part of industry for Magneti Marelli, it's not possible for us to do what we do without the leadership in the community. So with the Economic Development Board, the mayor, the county executive, Ms. Van Zant, and all the support of the community to be able to do and realize the vision we have for the company here in Pulaski. So all those things are important that we work together, and we have a great relationship to like-minded people who have a vision for the future and are committed to bringing about our dreams. I believe it was Dan that mentioned, there's the economic development, and probably many others are working to realize an extension to the runway out here. And I don't know anything technical about, how long a runway should be or whatever. But I do know in our industry that when there's a jeopardy of stopping a customer to stop a car plant, that is a no-go. So if it means catching a plane, flying parts, a handful, I've done it myself, a dozen small parts, and spend thousands of dollars for hundreds of dollars of parts. But with that type of pressure, it's really important for us to be able to have the facility such as this one. We've used this facility a ton, and that's a bad thing also for a plant manager. If we're measured by how many times we have to use the airport, it's not a good thing normally. But when it's necessary, it's really appreciated, and it's an important, I don't want to say the word tool, but an important part of what a county, what a community needs for industry. And I'm pleased to be here to, just represent Magneti Marelli and to say, we're happy to be a sponsor for this day. Kim Ketchum is here with us. Kim is our Vice President of New Business Development, and Kim was also instrumental in supporting this day. And we hope and to be part of, the continued growth of this community, this airport, and we appreciate being part of this day. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Greg. Next, we have the mayor.
Well, I want to first of all welcome everyone, and I know we've got a lot of guests from out of town, and appreciate you guys being here. And want to welcome you to our community. Hope you enjoy yourselves here today. Randy Jones, what do we say? Thank you. Thank you. As I look down a list of accomplishments, as I sit here and listen to stories and things that you have done, and just simply coming out here and looking around, what do you say? Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Pulaski, Tennessee, I would like to offer this proclamation. Whereas on February 23rd, 1963, Randy Jones, age 16, took his first flying lesson and made his first solo flight in May of 1963. And whereas in May of 1964, Randy Jones received his private license in Arlington, Texas. And whereas after graduating from Arlington High School, Randy joined the United States Army, and after completing basic training, attended aircraft mechanic school. And whereas while serving in the Army, Randy served tours of duty in South Korea and Vietnam. While serving in South Korea, Randy received his South Korean private pilot license. He was honorably discharged in September of 1967, attaining the rank of E5. And whereas by May of 1968, Randy Jones had earned several certifications and began teaching flying lessons, operated a charter service, and was a full-time commercial pilot. On April 18, 1972, Randy was hired as the manager of the Abernathy Field Airport, and at that time there were only 2 airplanes based in Pulaski. And whereas Randy has completed several major projects at the airport, including the construction of 2 hangars, complete remodeling of the office, 3 runway extensions, and the installation of a non-directional beacon system. And whereas in 2013, Randy was awarded the FFA Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award for his professionalism, skill, and aviation expertise, maintaining operations for 50 or more years. And whereas on this day, June 14, 2014, the City of Pulaski and the County of Giles will honor Randy by naming the complex at the airport the Randy P. Jones Sr. Aeronautical Complex. Now, therefore, by the authority vested in me as the Mayor of the City of Pulaski, I, Patrick L. Ford, do hereby proclaim Saturday, June the 14th, 2014, as Randy P. Jones Sr. Day in the City of Pulaski, and I call upon all the citizens of Pulaski and Giles County to join me in expressing our congratulations to him for his many personal and professional achievements.
Thank you, Pat. Next, we have County Executive Van Zandt.
Thank you. Since we seem like we copy each other's proclamations, I decided that we were not going to give a proclamation today. We're going to give a plaque. And I'd like the county commissioners to please stand while I do this. I have Commissioner Campbell, Commissioner Reese, and Commissioner Harville. Are there any other that are here? You're welcome to come up and join me if you'd like. And Pat, again, thank you for this beautiful day. I always blame it on Pat if it rains, but I'm going to blame it on him today. It's a gorgeous day. And it is a great day in Giles County because I can't think of anybody that I had rather honor than Randy Jones. I have enjoyed working with Randy so much since I've been in office, and he is always professional, polite, and kind. And I can't say a lot more because everyone has said that today. And I'm going to read this proclamation. It says, in appreciation to Randy P. Jones, Sr., for your commitment, focus, and high standards in operating the airport. It is an honor to name the airport the Randy P. Jones Aeronautical Complex. And that's Janet Van Zandt, County Executive, and our Giles County Commissioners, June the 14th, 2014. Randy. We also have a little gift here.
Thank y'all. Next, well, Barry Doss got tied up. He, I think, is on his way. We may have a presentation later with that. We're kind of running behind, so we're going to move on kind of quick. When I was 8 years old, I got a metal detector for Christmas. Came up, we were living in Huntsville at the time, but I came up to my grandparents on Rose Street, and some of you may have heard this story, but I found a medallion that had Cooper River Bridge. And after a little research, we found out it was a medallion that was dedicated when Charleston, South Carolina, dedicated the Cooper River Bridge. It's a long story, but come to find out, I think it's the only one known to exist. So I've always wanted to do some type of medallion for a service or something. So, Ashton, we have a medallion to give to you, Randy.
Goodness, thank you.
So, and it's on the front cover. And I also want to say that each of you here will get one today. So, without any further ado, you've heard all the talk today. We officially want to dedicate this facility to you, Randy, for all your hard work and dedication. The Randy P. Jones Senior Aeronautical Complex. We had one glitch. We had a bronze plaque ordered for the hangar. It was shipped. It's supposed to ship air. It got shipped ground, so it didn't make it, but we have an image for you. So. Randy, do you want to say something?
Just real quick, because I'm sure everybody's hungry from then.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here and for this day. And David Rackley has just gone out of his way to put all this together, and I appreciate it, along with Dan and Jesse and Bob Ballard, Tim Kraut. Thank you for all you've done. Tarfleys, Tabitha, and Scott, and everybody that's been involved in this. If I leave anybody out, well, I'm sorry. My family, my brothers, my daughter, they've been the most important thing in my life, and I appreciate them being here. The elected officials who stood behind me, you know, all this couldn't happen without elected officials being behind you, and I appreciate all that y'all have done for us. You know, it means a lot. Karen Hutton, wherever you are, her and her dad, we've taken all this trip together. Her dad and I started back in 1971, and he's an important part of my life, and I appreciate him and want to thank him publicly for everything that he's done and what I do with you, and you know I love you too. And I hope we got a few more years left to fly around the country. I'll keep this short. You know, this all started on a cold February day in 1963 and over in Lawrenceburg. It's been an amazing thing. I realize every day how lucky I am to have been able to live in a small town and a county that I love and do the things that I've done. It's been an amazing ride. And I'll finish by just saying this. A few years ago, they had a movie out that was called Field of Dreams. And in the movie, the central character kept hearing this voice. It said, "If you build it, they will come." And that's what I've always believed. If we built a fine facility here, a good facility, that people would come, industries would come, people would come here. And I still believe that. This is my field of dreams. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Want to thank all the sponsors that helped contribute. I want to say that no city and county funds paid for this. It's all contributions. So I want to say, I forgot to mention, this flag right here is, if you notice, it's 48 star flag that I found. This was probably one of the flags that flew over this airport for many years. So I thought that might be appropriate to bring it today. Has anybody in here never flown in a plane? Okay, Terry, y'all are first in line. Randy's gonna take you up after lunch. Yep.
I promise you'll be safe.
You know, Randy, what I told you.
No,
Randy will be the one that takes it.
okay, today.
No.